Hi, everyone. Welcome to Science. We're going to continue with lesson 2.1. Yesterday, we did an experiment on how the water droplets form. And just to refresh your memory on the science experiment, I have the video here. And we're just going to replay it so you can see what we did yesterday in case you were absent. 2 glasses of water, room temperature water, and some ice. Put the ice in to the room temperature water. And now they're going to observe what happens as a result. On your hand lenses and take a look at the outside. And hopefully you were able to finish your observations in your activity book. And as you got closer, you saw tiny little droplets formed on the outside of the glass. Okay, so that is, oh, we don't want to watch it again. Sorry, let me stop that. All right, so now the main question to think about with this is, why did the water droplets form on the outside of the glass? Because it didn't happen until after we added the ice. So adding the ice made the water in the cup get cold. And when the cup turned cold, it was able to form the water droplets on the surface of the cup. The difference between the air temperature and the cup temperature then at that point. So that's why we saw those. Now, some people originally thought that perhaps the water droplets on the outside actually came from the inside. And so think about an experiment that we could do to figure out if the drops of water came in from inside the cup. Now, let's test with another cup without water in it to see if drops form on it. Actually, we're going to have temperature without ice in it. They meant ice. So this water is room temperature water, and I'm going to make it as close as possible. Do you see any water droplets on the edges of this? No. When the air temperature and the cup temperature are the same, water droplets will not form. It's only when there's a difference in the temperature will you get that condensation. So if the cup is room temperature, you're not going to get the water droplets to form. It's only when it gets cold. Now, you're probably thinking, well, what happens if the cup goes into the freezer and then you take it out? So I have one ready for you, and I'm going to pause my recording because I have to run to my freezer and get the frozen cup to show you. So I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. This is my frozen glass, and we're going to observe it for a little while so it's like all frosty. And so take a look at it for a little while to see what happens with the frozen glass. So I'm not seeing any droplets, but maybe as it warms up, the ice is going to melt and form drops, perhaps. But the ice is on the outside of the cup. I'll set this aside and we'll come and look at it in a little bit, just so that we can keep our lesson moving. So we're still thinking about why the drops formed on the outside of the cup and how we can recreate it. And we're still discovering what's going to happen with the frozen cup. Okay, so now let me share our slideshow. One moment. Aha. I find it interesting that this slideshow shows the warm particles and the cold particles and the precipitation. So that gives you a little hint here. Okay, so we are on. We've done all this. Okay. Okay, and the freezer cup. Now, so let's check back again. And I believe we are getting some droplets on the frozen cup of water. So the next question they have for you, yeah, we're getting a few right here. Very good. It's even wet to the touch. So the idea is, why do you think drops appeared on the outside of this empty cup? Because we didn't even have any water in it. So that is what we're kind of looking at. So how to discuss how water drops form. So remember, we are investigating the question, how do drops of water form? And if we were in together, we would be doing this think, pair, share activity. But since it is me doing a video lesson, we're going to think together, and then I am going to think aloud and talk a little bit. And then I want you to think about your own ideas as well. So this is the first question I want you to think about. Do you think the water on the outside of the cup comes directly from the water and ice on the inside of the cup? Why or why not? So take a moment to think of our investigation when we had ice on the inside of the cup. So I'm going to say, no, the water on the outside of the cup did not come from the water on the inside. I did not spill any water. And so that's all I'm going to say. Okay, hopefully you had something to that effect, but there are no wrong answers. It's just what you think. Now, where did the water on the outside of the cup come from? Well, we talked about the differences in temperature, and when the cup is room temperature, or actually when the cup is cold and the air is warm, it's going to cause those little water droplets to come and condense and make condensation. So the water on the outside of the cup is a result of the room temperature air touching the cold cup. Because when you put the ice in it, it becomes cold. And that difference of temperature is what makes that happen. Okay. Next question. Why is there water on the cup with ice in it, but not on the cup without ice? Aha. So the cup without ice is at room temperature, and so is the air around it. So there will not be water on the outside of the cup. The frozen cup had water droplets form on them on the outside. We'll try to be very specific on the outside when there was a difference between the air temperature which in this case was the freezer, air, and the cup. The cup would have been warmer. And when you take it out of the freezer, the water droplets melt, thaw, right? They thaw or melt. So that's why the water droplets formed on that. And I have a really wet napkin now, and you can kind of see a few more water droplets at the bottom forming right here. Okay, so we're learning a lot. So now we think the water drops forming had something to do with the cup being cold. Good. And we know that the water drops could not come from inside the cup because they formed on the cold, empty cup. So now, what I'd like you to do is, if you ran out of time on the investigation, so would you go back to your investigation notebook pages 14 and 15? So let me go back here. So I finished up the one from yesterday. Okay, so would you look at your activity book pages 14 and 15? If you did not have a chance to answer these questions, you can do it now. If you need to look at the investigation again, I do have the video posted for you to take a look at. All right, so make sure those 2 pages are done. Now, I'd like to show you where I have the Science IXLs for this, our lessons here. So if you look into Science with Mrs. Flagg, you will see that we have a couple IXLs you can work on. Describe the geosphere, biosphere, hydrosphere, and then describe and graph water on Earth. So with your remaining time, after you finish those 2 pages, you may work on those as well. Then if you have more time, you can work on your homework for ELA or math if you have more time after that. Okay, so that will be the end of our science lesson for today. Okay, great work. Keep up the hard work, and I will be making another video. All right, bye for now.